Hello. It's funny how the smallest decisions can change your entire life. One minute, you're just going about your day, doing something completely ordinary. The next, everything you thought was true comes crashing down, leaving you standing in the wreckage, wondering how you got there. I never thought a simple DNA test, something people take for fun, would be the thing that shattered my world. But here I am. If I could go back in time and stop myself from opening that box, from spitting into that little tube and sealing my fate, I would. But life doesn't work that way. Once you uncover the truth, you can't unsee it. You can't pretend everything is fine when it's not. And now, I can never look at my wife, my kids, or even myself the same way again. Before all of this, my life was simple. Not perfect, but solid. I had a wife I loved, 2 great kids, and a stable career. I never had to wonder if I was truly happy because there was nothing to question. It wasn't some storybook romance, but Lisa and I had built a life together. A good life. We had our struggles, sure, every couple does, but at the end of the day, I thought we were on the same team. We met in college, dated through our early 20s, and got married right after we both landed stable jobs. She became a teacher, and I went into finance. It was the responsible thing to do. We were young, broke, and ambitious, but we made it work. Years passed, and life moved forward in predictable, comforting ways. We bought a house. We had Michael, then Emma. We settled into the kind of life people dream about: family dinners, holiday traditions, weekend trips to the lake. I never once questioned any of it. Why would I? My life was stable. My marriage was stable. Even when things between Lisa and me started to change, when we spoke less, when the spark between us dimmed, I assumed it was just what happened after nearly 2 decades together. Passion fades. People get busy. I never saw it as a warning sign. I should have. The DNA test wasn't my idea. It was a birthday gift from my brother, a little joke because he had taken one the year before and found out we had more Irish ancestry than we thought. It was supposed to be fun, a family activity, something to compare results and laugh about over Thanksgiving dinner. That's all it was supposed to be. I went through the motions like anyone else. Spit in the tube, sent it off, forgot about it. I didn't even think about it again until I got the email saying my results were ready. That was the moment my life began to unravel. But I didn't know it yet. If you had asked me a month ago what my biggest worries were, I would have said something boring: work deadlines, my mortgage, maybe a leaky faucet that I kept forgetting to fix. My life wasn't a roller coaster. It was a steady, predictable path. I took pride in that. No surprises, no chaos, just the life I had built with my wife and kids, a life I never thought to question. Looking back, I envy that version of myself. The man who believed in stability, in trust, in the comfort of routine. The man who thought that some things in life were just unquestionable. I miss being that man. Because now, I can never be him again. The email arrived on a Tuesday morning, buried between work memos and a sale notification from some store I hadn't shopped at in years. I almost didn't open it. The DNA test had been an afterthought, something I did to humor my brother. I clicked the email out of mild curiosity, expecting to skim through the results, maybe find out I had a distant cousin in Europe or that my great-great-grandfather was part Scottish. Instead, I was met with pages of data I barely understood. Percentages, regions, genetic markers. It was overwhelming. I scrolled past most of it, stopping only when I reached the family connections section. That's when I hesitated. There was my brother's name, just as expected. A few second and third cousins I didn't recognize. But something was missing. I brushed it off at first, assuming there was a glitch in the system. Maybe the kids' profiles weren't linked correctly, or maybe they hadn't taken the test yet. It was just a technical issue. That's what I told myself. But a feeling settled in my chest, something heavy and unfamiliar. For the first time, I felt uneasy. Still, I refused to acknowledge it. This was just some internet error, nothing more. I closed the email and went about my day, pushing the nagging thought to the back of my mind. But it didn't stay there. Over the next few days, the unease grew. I found myself watching my kids more closely, studying their faces, their features. Michael had Lisa's dark hair and my sharp jawline. Emma had my mother's hazel eyes, Lisa's dimples. But was that proof of anything? Or was I just seeing what I wanted to see? I shook off the doubt. This was ridiculous. I wasn't some paranoid husband looking for problems where there weren't any. Lisa and I had been together for nearly 20 years. There had never been any real reason to question her. But doubt is like a crack in a dam. Once it starts, it spreads. The more I tried to ignore it, the more it consumed me. I found myself remembering little things, Lisa's late nights at work, the way she used to be glued to her phone, the business trips that never seemed to add up. Things I had dismissed at the time, things I had trusted her about. Was I a fool? Had I been living in a lie this whole time? I told myself to stop. I was being irrational. The DNA results didn't mean anything. But that voice in my head, the one I had ignored for years, was getting louder. So, I did something I never thought I would do. I ordered new DNA test kits for Michael and Emma. I didn't tell Lisa. I told myself it was because I wanted it to be a surprise, a fun family project, something we could all laugh about. But deep down, I knew that wasn't the truth. The truth was, I wasn't ready for her reaction. Michael and Emma were excited about it. They thought it was a fun science experiment, a way to see if their DNA matched up to what I had gotten in my results. I watched them swab their cheeks, label their kits, and package them up without a single shred of suspicion. They had no idea that their father was standing there, holding his breath, praying he wasn't about to confirm his worst nightmare. I dropped the kits in the mailbox and felt an instant wave of regret. Maybe I should have waited. Maybe I should have trusted Lisa like I always had. Maybe I had just started something I couldn't undo. But it was too late. The results were coming, whether I wanted them or not. Waiting was the worst part. Every day felt like an eternity. Every time my phone buzzed, I felt a rush of panic, convinced it was the email with the results. I barely slept, barely ate. I started avoiding Lisa, afraid that if I looked at her too closely, I'd give myself away. And then, after nearly 2 weeks of waiting, the email finally arrived. I stared at the subject line, my hands frozen over the keyboard. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my throat. This was it. With one click, I would either confirm that I had been overthinking everything, that I had let paranoia get the best of me, or I would uncover something I could never take back. I took a deep breath. And then, I clicked. That was the moment my world ended. I always thought betrayal was something obvious, something you could feel creeping up on you like a storm on the horizon. But real betrayal? The kind that blindsides you, that dismantles everything you thought was real? That kind comes quietly. It settles into your life like a hidden crack in the foundation, waiting for the right moment to bring the whole house down. And when my house collapsed, it wasn't just a broken trust, it was a complete erasure of who I thought I was. Because when I got my DNA test results back, I didn't just find out my kids weren't mine. I found out my entire life was a lie. It started with a simple curiosity, a harmless DNA test meant to trace my ancestry. I never expected anything dramatic, maybe a surprise ethnicity percentage or some distant cousin popping up in the results. What I got instead was something no one ever prepares for. I had expected my children, Michael and Emma, to show up in the database. After all, they were my kids, my flesh and blood. But when I scrolled through the matches, their names weren't there. Not under mine, at least. At first, I thought it was a mistake, a glitch in the system. Maybe they just hadn't taken the test yet, or maybe their profiles weren't properly linked. But as I stared at the screen, refreshing over and over, a cold, creeping realization settled in. Michael and Emma were in the system, but their DNA didn't match mine. I felt my breath catch in my throat, my hands shaking as I clicked through the results, trying to make sense of it. I expected the worst. I expected to see another man's name linked to them, proof of some long-buried affair. But that wasn't what I found. Michael and Emma were full siblings. They were 100% related to each other. But they weren't related to me. At all. It was impossible. I had been there for their births. I had watched Lisa's belly grow, held her hand through the contractions, cut the umbilical cords myself. There was no doubt in my mind that she had given birth to them. And yet, according to science, I had no genetic connection to them whatsoever. The only thing that made sense, the only explanation that didn't drive me completely insane, was that they weren't my children. But they were Lisa's. The weight of that truth settled in my chest like a boulder. This wasn't just an affair. This wasn't just a one-time mistake. Lisa had planned this. She had known. She had carried 2 children, raised them with me, and never once told me the truth. I felt sick. I wanted to rage, to scream, to demand answers. But deep down, I already knew. Lisa had never planned for me to find out. She had been willing to take this lie to the grave. For the next few days, I barely functioned. I went through the motions of life, pretending everything was fine, while inside, I was unraveling. I avoided Lisa. I avoided my kids. I avoided the truth that was gnawing at the edges of my sanity. But I couldn't avoid it forever. I needed answers. So, I did something I never thought I would do. I went to the doctor. I told them I wanted a fertility test. I needed to know, without a doubt, if there had ever been a chance for me to father children. And when the results came back, they shattered whatever was left of my world. I had never been able to have children. Not low fertility. Not a slim chance. Zero chance. A complete medical impossibility. Which meant that Lisa had known all along. She had lied to me. Not for a day. Not for a week. For 17 years. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel, my mind spinning with possibilities. I had spent years loving, raising, and sacrificing for 2 children who weren't mine. And Lisa had let me. She had let me believe I was their father, knowing full well that I wasn't. But if she had done this, if she had planned it, then who was their real father? That was the one piece of the puzzle I was missing. And then, just as that thought crossed my mind, my phone buzzed. A message. From an unknown number. A single sentence. You don't know the half of it. My blood ran cold. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding in my chest. Someone knew. Someone had been waiting for me to figure it out. And as I read those words over and over, one terrifying thought took hold. I had been searching for the truth. But maybe, just maybe, I wasn't ready to hear it. Some betrayals cut deep. Others, they go beyond betrayal. They tear apart the very fabric of your reality, leaving you stranded in a life that no longer feels like your own. That's where I found myself. First, I learned my children weren't biologically mine. Then, I discovered I had never been able to have children in the first place. But just when I thought I had hit the bottom of this nightmare, life had one more twist waiting for me. Because the man who had fathered my children, the man who had been with my wife behind my back, had been dead for 5 years. And I only found out because of what I discovered in my attic. After getting that anonymous text, you don't know the half of it, I couldn't sit still. The words had burned themselves into my brain, looping over and over as if daring me to find out more. I had spent days avoiding Lisa, pretending like I wasn't unraveling, pretending like I wasn't one wrong word away from completely losing it. But something about that text told me that whoever sent it knew more than I did. And I needed to know everything. I don't know why I went into the attic that night. Maybe I was looking for something, some kind of proof, some piece of evidence that would confirm what I already knew. Or maybe, deep down, I had always known there was something buried there, waiting to be found. The attic was dusty, filled with boxes of forgotten memories, old photo albums, Christmas decorations, things we had shoved up there over the years and never looked at again. But one box stood out. It was small, tucked away in the farthest corner, hidden beneath a pile of old blankets. The moment I saw it, something in my gut told me that this was what I had been looking for. And I was right. Inside the box were letters. Dozens of them. Yellowed with age, tied together with a faded ribbon, addressed to Lisa. But they weren't for me. I pulled the first one out, my hands trembling as I unfolded the fragile paper. And then I read the words that would change everything. Lisa, I can't do this. I never wanted this. I wanted you. Only you. Not them. Not this life. You knew what this was. You knew what I needed. And now you're telling me that you're keeping them? That you're choosing them over me? You don't understand what you're doing. I never wanted to be a father. You promised me this would never happen. And now, I don't know if I can ever forgive you. Jay. I sat there, staring at the letter, my brain struggling to process the words in front of me. This wasn't just an affair. This wasn't just a betrayal. This was something much worse. Lisa's lover, the real father of my children, had never even wanted them. And Lisa had known. She had known that he wanted nothing to do with them, that he resented them. And she had still kept me in the dark. I flipped through the letters, my pulse pounding in my ears. They weren't love letters. They weren't sweet or romantic. They were angry. They were desperate. The man, Jay, had been furious. He had felt trapped, betrayed by Lisa's decision to keep the children he never wanted. But then, as I read on, I found the letter that made my blood turn to ice. Lisa, this is the last time I'm writing to you. You made your choice. And I've made mine. I'm leaving. I won't be here when they arrive. I won't be a part of this. I told you that from the beginning. You knew what you were to me. And you knew what I wasn't. I don't want this life. And I don't want them. Goodbye. I dropped the letter, my breath coming in shallow gasps. Lisa had been abandoned. Her lover had walked away, leaving her with 2 children he never wanted. And instead of telling me, instead of admitting the truth, she had let me step in and unknowingly take his place. She had let me build a life around a lie. And then, one final, crushing realization hit me. The letters had all been written around the time Michael was born. And yet, Jay was never in the picture. because for the past 5 years, he had been dead. I don't remember how long I sat there in the attic, the letters scattered around me, my mind spiraling into a darkness I didn't know existed. The man who had fathered my children had died years ago. Lisa had kept that secret, too. Had she ever mourned him? Had she kept it buried the same way she had buried the truth about Michael and Emma's parentage? Or worse, had she spent all these years wishing he had stayed? Wishing it was him instead of me? I stuffed the letters back into the box, my hands shaking. I couldn't think straight. I couldn't breathe. But one thing was clear. Lisa had spent years pretending that we were a family. But now, I knew the truth. And I was done pretending. Betrayal isn't just about the lie itself. It's about the years spent believing in something that was never real. It's the quiet moments that suddenly feel hollow, the trust that turns into a cruel joke, the memories that shift from warm nostalgia to sharp reminders of deception. Lisa didn't just lie to me, she built an entire life around that lie. She let me believe I was a father, let me dedicate years of my life to children who weren't mine. She allowed me to be her rock, her provider, her safety net, all while knowing that the truth could burn it all to the ground. But she had underestimated me. Lisa had stolen years from me, but I wasn't going to let her walk away unscathed. This wasn't going to be a simple confrontation. No shouting match in the kitchen, no slammed doors, no tearful apologies that meant nothing. That would be too easy, too temporary. Lisa had taken my sense of self, my security, my future. I wasn't going to take just one thing from her. I was going to take everything. Revenge wasn't about rage. Rage was reckless, impulsive. Revenge was about patience, calculation, and the slow, deliberate destruction of everything she valued. Lisa was comfortable. She had built a life on security, on knowing she had control. The first thing I had to do was take that away. I began small, with things she wouldn't notice at first. A missing credit card. A bank transfer she didn't authorize. An investment account that suddenly had funds withdrawn. Lisa didn't handle the finances, I did. She had never needed to worry about money because I had always made sure everything was in order. She never even noticed when I started shifting things in preparation for what was coming. At the same time, I made her trust me more than ever. I acted as if nothing had changed. I was attentive, thoughtful, the perfect husband. I brought her flowers. I planned surprise dates. I made her feel like whatever distance had crept into our marriage before was now gone. I needed her to believe that we were closer than ever so that when the moment came, the impact would be devastating. But the most important part of my plan wasn't Lisa. It was Michael and Emma. No matter what, they didn't deserve to suffer for their mother's mistakes. They weren't just strangers to me. They were the children I had raised, the ones I had held as infants, taught to ride bikes, helped with homework. I wasn't going to take my anger out on them. Lisa had used them as a shield for her lies, but I wouldn't do the same. My revenge had to be precise, it had to target her and only her. I needed to dismantle the illusion she had built. It wasn't enough for me to know the truth. Everyone else had to see it too. I started digging into the past, looking for any loose ends Lisa had failed to tie up. The letters from Jay had given me a starting point, and after weeks of searching, I found exactly what I was looking for. Jay had family. A brother. A brother who had no idea that his dead sibling had fathered 2 children. A brother who, after I contacted him and showed him everything, was more than willing to be part of what came next. Lisa had spent years pretending our family was perfect, so I planned her downfall in the most public way possible. A family dinner. Her parents, her siblings, my brother, our children, all gathered together, just like the old days. Lisa thrived on appearances, on making everything seem picture perfect, so I let her believe this was a normal evening, a sign that our marriage was stronger than ever. But when the moment came, I shattered her world. I pulled out the letters. I presented the DNA results. I revealed my infertility diagnosis. And then, I introduced Jay's brother, the man whose presence alone was enough to expose the entire deception. Lisa's carefully constructed life collapsed in front of her entire family. There were no excuses, no justifications that could save her. She had lied for 17 years, and now, everyone knew. The fallout was immediate. Lisa's parents, once her biggest supporters, looked at her with disgust. Her siblings were silent, unwilling to defend her. Michael and Emma, the ones I had protected from the full weight of the truth, looked at their mother with shattered expressions, realizing that she had been hiding something from them their entire lives. The next morning, I filed for divorce. Lisa had no way out. She had no financial control, no emotional support, nothing to hold on to as her world collapsed. By the time the legal process was over, she had lost the house, the security she had always relied on, and the life she had spent years crafting. They say revenge doesn't heal wounds. Maybe that's true. But walking away from that house for the last time, knowing Lisa would never recover from what she had done, that was the closest thing to closure I was ever going to get. Bye-bye.